Catastrophic flood in Nepal, August 26, 2026. Hundreds missing, not dozens, but more than 100 bodies recovered. Foreign tourists also affected. A devastating flood struck Nepal's Himalayan region, sweeping away roads, bridges, homes, power projects, and entire settlements within just a few moments. The sudden flood in the Bhote Koshi River system and its connected river areas shook the border region between Nepal and Tibet. Hundreds of people are missing. Families of foreign tourists are waiting anxiously for news of their loved ones. Security personnel, employees of hydropower projects, and local residents are also out of contact. And the most alarming part? For rescue teams, simply reaching the affected areas has itself become a major challenge. This is the complete story of Nepal's devastating flood of August 26, 2026. On the morning of Wednesday, August 26th, at around 8:30 a.m., an extremely severe flood suddenly struck the Bhote Koshi River system in Nepal's Rasuwa district. The area is located near the border between Nepal and China-administered Tibet. The flood was so sudden and powerful that people had almost no time to react. Roads, bridges, buildings, police posts, customs offices, and energy projects located along the river were hit by massive amounts of water and debris. The border crossing toward Girong port was also hit by heavy debris, affecting roads, communications, and the electricity system. According to Reuters, experts initially suggested that an avalanche or a section of a glacier falling down may have triggered the devastating flood. Satellite images also showed evidence of a major landslide or ice rock avalanche. Nepali authorities also mentioned the possibility that an earthquake in the area may have triggered the process. However, at the initial stage, its exact cause had not been conclusively established. Within just a few hours of the flood, the number of deaths and missing people began to rise rapidly. Initial reports indicated several dozen deaths. Then the number continued to increase. By the night of August 26th, reports emerged that 157 bodies had been recovered in Nepal. In addition, 3 people were reported dead in Girong County in Chinese-administered Tibet. This meant that at least 160 deaths had been reported on both sides of the border. But this was not the final death toll, because hundreds of people were still missing and search operations were continuing. According to reports from AP and Reuters, numerous settlements, bridges, roads, and power projects in the affected areas were severely damaged. Reports also indicated damage to approximately 19 motorable bridges and around 40 kilometers of roads. One of the most sensitive aspects of this disaster is the disappearance of foreign tourists. In its initial list, the Nepal Tourism Board reported that 384 travelers were out of contact. Among them were 291 foreign nationals and 93 Nepali citizens. However, in a later official update, the number increased to 484 travelers, including 391 foreign nationals and 93 Nepali citizens. These figures were preliminary, and different institutions were verifying their lists, which is why the numbers continued to change. Here, one extremely important point must be understood. Being missing does not mean that all of these people have died. Many people were simply out of contact. Some may have been in safe locations. Some may already have been rescued, while information about others may have emerged later. That is why authorities instructed families not to draw conclusions before final confirmation. Now let us look at the country-wise information regarding foreign nationals. Different figures appeared in the initial and subsequent lists. Citizens of India were among the largest groups on the list of affected people. At one stage, the Nepal Tourism Board identified 105 Indian citizens, while later updates reported an even higher number of Indian nationals. Citizens of the United States were also among those reported missing. At one stage, at least 3 American tourists were confirmed, while later reports indicated that the number of American citizens was considerably higher. Citizens from the United Kingdom were also reported missing. There were also reports that citizens of Malaysia, South Africa, South Korea, Australia, the Netherlands, and Italy were out of contact. South Korea separately confirmed that 8 South Korean workers were missing, while 10 other workers were stranded in the area. These individuals were working on a hydropower project. Now, one point needs to be made very clear. A final country-wise list of those who died is not yet available. The reason is that the identification of many of the recovered bodies had not yet been completed. Therefore, if any report at this stage divides the 157 deceased by nationality and presents those figures as final, it would be incorrect to consider them confirmed facts. The country-wise figures that are available are primarily for people who are missing or out of contact. At one stage, reports gave the following figures. India, 105 or more in later updates. United Kingdom, 12 with higher numbers reported in later updates. United States, 3 with higher numbers reported in later updates. Malaysia, 17 South Korea, 8 workers. South Africa, 4 Australia, 1 the Netherlands, 1 Italy, 2, and the nationality of some individuals had not yet been verified. These figures continued to change over time because different travel agencies, the tourism board, and government authorities were cross-checking their lists. This disaster was not limited to tourists. Security personnel stationed in the affected areas were also reported missing. According to an update from the Nepali government, 44 Nepal Army personnel, 28 Nepal police personnel, and 13 armed police force personnel were out of contact. Similarly, approximately 60 employees associated with various hydropower projects were also reported missing. Some employees of the Rasuwa Customs Office and Immigration Office were also out of contact. In other words, this flood affected tourism, security, trade, energy, and local communities all at the same time. This natural disaster also caused severe damage to Nepal's infrastructure. Roads were washed away, bridges collapsed, power projects were damaged, border routes were closed, communication systems were disrupted. According to the Nepal Electricity Authority, approximately 430 megawatts of electricity generating capacity, including hydropower and solar facilities, were affected. This was not merely a local flood. Its effects reached trade, travel, electricity, and cross-border movement. Given the scale of the destruction, the government of Nepal declared the affected local-level areas disaster-hit areas for 3 months. The government immediately approved measures to accelerate rescue operations, provide free medical treatment to the injured, mobilize the army and police, conduct rescue operations using helicopters, provide food and shelter to displaced families, and restore damaged roads and water systems. Resources were also allocated for financial assistance to affected families and for the restoration of infrastructure. The Nepali government authorized the use of the army, police, private helicopters, and other resources for search and rescue operations. August 26, 2026, has become one of the most frightening chapters in Nepal's recent history of natural disasters. Hundreds of families are waiting for news of their loved ones. Several foreign governments are in contact with Nepal to search for their citizens. Rescue teams are searching for survivors across difficult mountainous areas, destroyed roads, and massive amounts of debris. And most importantly, the operation is not over yet. The death toll may rise further. There is also hope that more missing people may be found safe. That is why, at this stage, the most responsible thing to do is to share only verified information. The latest report of 157 bodies recovered in Nepal, 3 deaths in Tibet, and hundreds of people still missing. This is not just a flood. This is a disaster that struck an entire Himalayan region and within a matter of hours, transformed lives, travel, trade, and infrastructure. And with every passing hour, rescue teams hold on to just one hope, that somewhere beneath the debris, somewhere in the mountains, or at a safe location, another person may still be found alive. This is the story based on the information available so far of the devastating Bhote Koshi flood that struck Nepal on August 26, 2026.